walked across the pages of time. He who made every living thing, behold him. He who heard humanity's cry, left his throne to wake as a child. He became like the least of us. Behold him, Jesus, Son of God, Messiah, the Lamb, the roaring Lion. Oh, be still and behold
He who died with sinners and saints, healed the blind, the lost and the lame. Even now he is in our midst. Behold him. He who chose the criminal's end, paid with blood to settle our debt. Buried death is he rose to life. Behold him,
Jesus, Son of God, Messiah, the Lamb, the roaring Lion. Oh, be still and behold him, Jesus, Alpha and Omega, our God, the risen Savior. Oh, be still and behold Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Worthy, worthy, worthy to receive all praise. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Worthy, worthy, worthy to receive all praise. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Worthy, worthy, worthy to receive all praise. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Worthy, worthy, worthy to receive all praise. Jesus, Son of God, Messiah, the Lamb, the roaring Lion. Oh, be still and behold him, Jesus, Alpha and Omega, our God, the risen Savior. Oh, be still and behold him. Yes, behold him. Behold him. Hey, the internet. I hope that you're having a Merry Christmas. My name is Mitch, and I'm one of the pastors here at Suncrest. I am excited that you've decided to check us out online this holiday. In fact, if this is your first time checking out a Suncrest on-demand video, I want to say thanks. Thanks for giving us a shot. Thanks for being willing to try something new. We know there's lots of things that might be at the forefront of your attention this season, but we think it's a big deal that you're watching this video. And because of that, we'd love to give you a little Christmas gift. go ahead and text the word Suncrest to the number 94,000. Someone on our team is on the other side of that text thread and will send you a digital gift card just for letting us know you're watching. Boom. Merry Christmas. Now, I want you to know something before we get going. Everything we do is aimed at helping all of us focus more on Jesus. So, from the messages we learn, the guided experiences we'll have in this video, the music we'll hear, and the generosity we'll share together, and everything in between, all of it is aimed at helping us focus on Jesus during a busy, busy season. Speaking of generosity, one of the ways that you can be part of making a huge difference in Northwest Indiana is by partnering with us financially in what we call our compassion offering. Every year we do this, and every dollar that's donated from now until midnight on Christmas Eve is earmarked to go directly back into our community. You know, it's just one of the ways that we are for the region together. You can set up a one-time gift or maybe even set up a recurring gift either on our app or our website. And while you're doing that, take a look at this.
Okay. Hi, my name is Stacy. I'm married to Chris, and together we have two great kids, Ryder and Autumn. Ryder is 2 and has Down syndrome, so we belong to the Down Syndrome Association Northwest Indiana. It was through the association that we found out about Suncrest's Compassion Thursdays. Last year, the week of Christmas, we all got COVID. I was 31 weeks pregnant with Autumn, and I didn't feel her moving much. Long story short, I drove myself to the hospital alone because Chris and Ryder were sick. A few hours later, she was here, but she was in pretty bad shape. We were all so sick, I was not allowed visitors, and we could not meet our daughter until she was 2 weeks old. We found out Christmas Eve she had a moderate to severe brain bleed. She was actually flown to a children's hospital in Chicago on Christmas Day, where she stayed in the NICU for 12 weeks and eventually underwent a brain surgery mid-January. This all led to Chris being on a leave of absence from work, with plenty of unplanned expenses. Traveling back and forth to Chicago daily to see Autumn in the NICU was expensive, just in gas alone. It was an incredibly stressful time, worrying about finances and how Autumn was doing, all while juggling Ryder's needs. This was a very difficult time for us, and we received a lot of help from a lot of generous people, one of those being Suncrest. It was with their help that we received the gas gift cards to continue to go see our daughter. They even helped put food on the table because we had enough to worry about. It has been a very, very tough year, but the kids are doing great, and we are so happy to be celebrating Autumn's first and Ryder's 3rd birthday the week of Christmas. We are so grateful for the help we received from Suncrest this year. We are just normal people who hit a rough patch, and with the generosity of those at Suncrest, we were able to make it through. Please consider partnering financially with Suncrest to continue to help people like me, my husband, and Ryder and Autumn. Your generosity makes a real difference.
Thanks for partnering with us and using your finances to change lives. It really means a lot to us.
You can probably imagine that I love our Christmas Eve services. You know, one of the things we say around here all the time is that everything we do here is centered on Jesus. And of course, on a week when we celebrate Jesus coming into the world, it only highlights that so much more. And there's really two things about these particular services that I think, oh, that gets us even closer to that. First is we do have all the kids in the room, right? So kids, do me a favor right now. Grab those boxes that Miss Jen told you about, and I want you to open those up for a second. Now, I'm hoping your parents will listen to me over the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. All of you are welcome to listen to me, but there's some good stuff to do in this box. So if you open that up, I'm just going to tell you, there's a card in there. It's got a word find. It's got a little scavenger hunt, visual scavenger hunt. Don't get up out of your seat and chase things down. It's got a chance for you to draw things that are, the biggest things that you can imagine. I'm going to talk about that a little bit when I go today. There's a ring pop in there. You might want to enjoy that. But this squishy earth ball right here, this stress ball right here, I'm going to hit that a little bit later in the message too. So just hold that close by. Kids, I love having you here. We have a 4-year-old at home. And one of the things I know that's true about Christmas is it's more fun with kids around, right? No doubt about it. We're thrilled that you're here. The second thing that's kind of unique about these services is we always have just an enormous number of guests. And if you're a guest with us tonight, I want you to know I'm so glad that you're here. I want you to feel like you're welcome here. And when I say our church tries to be a place that's centered on Jesus, I think one of the most fascinating things about Jesus coming into the world is about who was attracted to him and who was actually kind of repelled by him. If you actually read the story of Jesus, what you'll notice is that the religious establishment was not Jesus' biggest fan. And in many, many ways, those people who were most unlikely to like Jesus really liked him. They would hang out with him, and sometimes, I think it's important for a person like me to remind all of us that God loves us, and he does. He loves all of you. But if you're a person who's not really a religious person, who's not really a rule follower, who's not really, kind of a church person, maybe even the way you think about it, I want you to know that it was actually your crowd that seemed to be most fascinated by Jesus. And not only did God love you and Jesus love you, but he actually really, really liked you. In fact, in the very announcement, what I think of as the disruption of the night when Jesus came into the world, we have a recording of Jesus coming into the world in Luke chapter 2, and then there's an announcement to be made about his arrival. It's done by these supernatural angelic beings. I don't know whether you can get your mind around that or not, but it's actually the words that they say that I think are the important part of this announcement. This is what they say. They say, "Fear not. Don't be afraid. Whatever you carried into this night, shepherds, whatever you carried into this night in this place, don't be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people." And this is what's so critical. When Jesus came into the world, it wasn't just for the religious people. It wasn't just for the faithful people. It wasn't just for the moral people. It wasn't for a certain ethnicity or a certain socioeconomic group. The very announcement of Christ coming is to say, hey, no matter who you are, Jesus came for you. And then it says, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior who is Christ the Lord." And one of the things I think you have to imagine about that night is just how powerful the disruption of that night was. I mean, every historian agrees that whatever happened in that season in Palestine of human history became the most significant event of anything that has ever happened in human history. You may or may not believe that Jesus was the Son of God or that these supernatural things occurred, but everyone agrees that whatever did happen, it shaped human history in a way that nothing else did. And that's no small feat, because if you and I stop and think about it, we probably would agree. Most people, we just kind of go with what we know. Most of us don't change our minds or our beliefs or our perspectives about things. We're not that open to letting go of control in our lives. Most of us kind of have our way of seeing the world, and any data points that don't fit with that, we just kind of shove them out, and we chase after the data points that support our perspectives. It's almost like we all have our way, and everything has to fit into that. But on that night, something changed. It was so disruptive that people changed how they saw the world, that people changed what they believed, that people changed even what path they thought their life should be on because of something so significant. And it's interesting if you think about it, that we all need these disruptions in our lives. Otherwise, we just stay on the same path and we try to control everything around us to make it go just as we want it to go. I came across an image, actually just a few weeks ago, that I thought was just a fascinating image. It is a camera that's mounted, I believe, on a gyroscope in order to allow the camera to be fixed according to reality rather than fixed to the earth. I want to show you just a 20-second video here of how this looks with this camera. Take a look at this. Now, I don't know if that image is as powerful to you as it is to me, but one of the things that you see in that image is that reality isn't actually how we perceive it most of the time. Almost all of us perceive the world and life for us to be that we're set in place and this world is going around us. We even use the phrases like the sun came up and the sun went down, but guess what? The sun didn't go anywhere. The sun stood still. It was us who have been moving around it. And even when you see an image like that and you see maybe the stars in the sky and you think those are the things that are fixed in place, I'm the thing that is moving. Maybe it jostles you and I enough to remind ourselves that we actually aren't at the center of the universe. That actually we're in a small place in a universe that is much larger and more vast than we are. And we are participants in a plan, but have very little control at all. Now, when I was younger and I was growing up in church, if the pastor ever went down the road of telling you or telling me that you probably think you're the center of the universe, I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. He's about to tell me how selfish I am, right? And I probably needed it. But when I suggest to you that we perceive ourselves as being at the center of the universe, I don't mainly see that as a problem for us in terms of selfishness. I see it mainly as a problem for us in terms of imagining what we control. That you and I have plans for our lives, dreams for our lives, and then we set the course toward them. Some of you are like me and you have children, and you have a sense when you're raising your children that you need to make this go a certain way. Some of you imagine that if anything's going to happen in your life, that it will, of course, have to be done out of your strength and out of your power. It's almost the only way that we can imagine the world because we place ourselves at the center of the world. But if you and I would allow ourselves to be disrupted, it might actually remind us of what reality is and the illusion, even of our control. Let me rewind to 9 months before Christ came into the world in Luke chapter 2. There was an announcement that came to a young teenage girl named Mary in Luke chapter 1. The angel comes and with some of the similar language tells Mary not to be afraid. I think it's one of the phrases that you and I should pay attention to say, oh, when we're disrupted, it tends to make us afraid because we feel like we're out of control, but maybe we were never in control. And so we don't be afraid. And the angel gives this message to Mary, who no doubt had plans for her life. She was dating a guy named Joseph, engaged to be married, probably pictured what it would like to be in Nazareth and maybe get out of Nazareth. He was a carpenter, had a good job, maybe they'd raise some kids. She no doubt had pictured plans for her life. And then a disruption where God comes with a message and says, actually, I want you to carry my child. And I don't know how you would have reacted to that. I don't know how you'd react today if you had even a sense from God that he wanted you to go a different direction in your life than what you have your plans and your dreams set on. But one of the most inspiring short phrases of the scriptures is what I see from Mary the mother of Jesus, when given this assignment, she simply says, "So let it be. Let it be." Not closed-handed, not my plans. I know I'm not strong enough to do it. It's not my power. But God, if that's what you're doing, let it be. It's a beautiful image to us. And it's an important reminder for us because you and I, in the way that we perceive God, I think probably too often imagine ourselves with more responsibility and control than we have. And I don't know if this Christmas in 2022 you could let go of one or two things in your life and travel a little bit lighter. But most of us could stand to let go of some of our control. I won't make you raise your hands here tonight, but I just want you to think about yourself. Like, do you have an area of your life that you're trying to control? You're engineering it right now. You are going to make sure you see it through, and you're just kind of white-knuckling it until you get there. Or you have a part of your life that seems out of control right now, and the only thing that you can hope for is to bring it back into control. That you have a plan or a dream that seems like it's being disrupted. You have a relationship that seems like it's being disrupted, and your posture is not, "Okay, God, I'll let it be." But instead, we grab the control, and we feel like if it's going to be, it's up to me. You know, if we rewound not just 9 months before the birth of Jesus, but about 600 years before the birth of Jesus, we get to me what is one of the most striking passages in all the scriptures. It's going to describe the event that would happen in Bethlehem that night with some amazing precision and some amazing detail. And maybe this is the one for us to walk away with today. This is from the prophet Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 9. He says, "For to us a child is born, and to us a son is given." Now, you may read that as kind of a repetitive statement, but I want you to be able to see the rich understanding of who God was and who Jesus is in this passage. When the passage says, "For to us a child is born," it is signaling to us that this is going to be a human being. A child will be born. And then it reminds us that this is a son that is given. The Son who has eternally existed from the creation of the world, living in the heavens, now coming to earth. This, in the very opening scriptures of Isaiah's prophecy, says this one will be both human and divine. Theologians would use these kind of words. They would say Jesus will be both immanent and transcendent. The immanence of God is a reminder that in a way that is uniquely God, He is here with us all of the time. He is beside you and He is present and He walks with you and He's real in this world. And the transcendence of God reminds us that God is not just here, but He is out there. He is superintending the whole world. He is sovereign over all things, and that He has plans that will come to fruition, and He's inviting us into His plan. Matthew, who had become a follower of Jesus after being someone who was just a scoundrel in his life, ends up writing one of the biographies of Jesus. And when he describes the birth of Jesus, he says, "And He will be called Emmanuel, God with us." Now, almost all of us are prone to live more on one side of this or the other. Some of us are prone to think, "Oh yeah, God is out there, but He's not right here." And you respect the reverence of God, the creation of God, the power of God, but there's a word for this in worldview language. It's that you would be a deist. You think God created the world, but that He doesn't actually interact with us. He maybe hears our prayer, but He certainly doesn't intervene into this world. He doesn't arrange any circumstances. He doesn't call you to anything in particular. But Christmas is a reminder that God is not just out there. He is right here. That when you call out to Him, He hears you. And that he does, in supernatural ways, continue to intervene in this world and in our lives. Some of us are more prone to think about Jesus as a human being and forget that he was God. To remember that God is present with us, but we miss the idea that he's out there, that he is transcendent, that he is actually outside of time and space and matter. And that when the world was created, and it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, it's telling us who God is and how grand he is, kids. When you're filling out that picture of the biggest thing in the world, you would have to put God as the biggest thing. It says, in the beginning, he created time. He created the heavens, that's space, and the earth, that's matter. And he lives outside of it all. And he has an authority that comes with living outside of it all. And this is God coming to earth. And then the passage says, and the government will be upon his shoulders. Kids, will you grab those earth balls for just a moment? Now, I'm going to toss mine up and down. I'd recommend being careful about that if I were you, kids. This ball actually isn't intended to be tossed up and down. In a way that's ironic to me, it's intended to be squeezed. Can you squeeze this earth ball right now? Isn't it interesting that someone decided to create a stress reliever by making it the whole world? Because most of us, grown-ups, isn't this right? Most of us feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. This is actually the nature of centering ourselves and assuming that we have control. We think if it's going to be, it's up to me, that everything depends on me, that things will only get done if I'm strong enough. And we center it all in ourselves. And we carry around this stress. But Isaiah says, the government, he's not talking about the federal government. He's talking about governing the whole world, the reign of God. It's on his shoulders. And that actually means that I can release control. And it says that Jesus will be called 4 things. And just as I walk through these tonight, I want to ask you to think about these 4 things and where it might be a chance this Christmas for you to give God's control back to him. It says that Jesus is a wonderful counselor. What does a wonderful counselor do? Well, a wonderful counselor will help you see where you don't see yourself accurately. And a wonderful counselor will help you to see that the path you're on is not the path that's best for you. And I want to ask you if you'd be open to it tonight, to let your picture of yourself and the path of your life to be given to God instead of controlled on our own. When Mary had the angel speak to her, her life was going this direction. But a wonderful counselor came and said, no, what if your life went this direction? For some of you, when you picture yourself and who you are, the picture you have of yourself is an inaccurate picture of yourself. That's what a wonderful counselor can do. They can help you see that you are worthy, that you are loved, that what you endured and what you did do not define who you are. And if there's anything I'd want you to encounter with Christ this Christmas, it is to let him define your identity rather than you defining it. He says that there's a mighty God. And the mighty God is a reminder to us that while we have a limited amount of strength, and we might picture that the potential of our life is directly related to how much strength we have for ourselves, that actually the way to picture your life is to anticipate the supernatural. That if you live with the limits on your life of your own strength, if that's all you're willing to hold on to, and you never open yourself up to a power of God in your life, to experience forgiveness that you can't bring yourself, to experience transformation, to experience faith and opportunities, a mighty God will pry the control from your hands and say, there's more for you if you'll trust me. There's an everlasting Father. You know, the beauty of an everlasting Father is that I'll always be provided for. One of the things Jesus says is, he says, doesn't a good father give gifts to his children? He says, why do you worry about what you'll eat and you'll drink and what you'll wear? Your heavenly Father knows that you need them. See the lilies of the field. He takes care of them. How much more will he take care of you? And for whatever part of your life, financial, emotional, mental, you think there's a Father who will give me what I need, and it's not up to me. And then there's the Prince of Peace. And probably the saddest thing to me about the world we inhabit today is how unsettled people are in their minds. We know that we're fighting mental health battles every day. We know that anxiety and depression and the moves we make from it, such as coping and addiction, that it all comes from how we lack this peace, who we are. But one of the stories of Christmas is that Jesus comes into the world. And he himself will even say later on, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, take peace. I have overcome the world. And so, I want to invite all of you to pray a simple prayer this Christmas. It's a prayer that goes like this. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God is God's heavenly nature. It's his transcendence that is sovereign over all things. It's a reminder that he is grand and the biggest of all things, and that we are not at the center of the universe, but he has an authority over all things. But then we say, oh God, my God. A God who is personal to us, who came to be with us, and who will walk with you through anything. And then there's the release of control, where we essentially say to God, listen, I've been trying to navigate this life in this world, and honestly, it's not really working for me. I need you.
We're going to do something really special now. Every year, Christians from all over the globe stop and light candles to represent Jesus' coming into the world. A light of hope, a light of peace in a dark world. Take a moment now and grab a candle, and it doesn't have to be anything special, and light it with us as we celebrate the light of the world coming to be with us.
Holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth.
thanks for joining us for Christmas at Suncrest On Demand. I hope it's been meaningful to you and meaningful to the people you shared this with. And in fact, if you haven't shared this yet, before you turn off this video, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and the share button. And from all of us here at Suncrest to you and your family, Merry Christmas.